I was sitting there thinking about whether or not I should interview this guy, when BAM! New notification. Ravenravener sends a message asking for an interview. So I interviewed 2 Northwind candidates, so you don't have to. So the actual interviews were an hour-ish and 30 minutes-ish. I'm not gonna make the average YouTube viewer watch that. So instead I condensed it into one video. Even if you're just here for the first interview, make sure you stay for the second interview, because in the second interview they explain some stuff that is very crucial for some of the claims made in the first interview. Here's the interviews. First I asked about his mysterious centralized Discord hub he plans to add. To understand why this is so mysterious, you need to know I was reading about his plan to create a centralized Discord hub on a centralized Discord hub. So he answered that it would coordinate events faster than currently, as well as creating a safe haven for people to go where they can make suggestions without fearing their comment getting deleted, and they can actually have free will, unless of course they break the server rules and pull a German mustache man, at which point there's very good reason to kick them. When I asked how he would make sure that his new communication hub would stay uncorrupted, he said that there would be transparency features, essentially allowing people to see whether or not the admins were deleting messages. I then asked about his prior so-called event hosting experience, where he explained that he had ran a few smaller scale events, including a 30-player boat race. Another event he did was an Ellesmere manhunt, and he said while he wasn't perfect at event hosting, he had significantly more experience than the other candidates. Which, when the other candidates have a grand total of 0 experience, that's not saying much, but it's saying more than the other guy. Some include talent shows, boat races, and Hunger Games, as well as a number of other quality events. He also said he was probably going to add more as the time went on, so there's more than we're seeing here. When I asked about how the events would be planned, he said that they would be mainly run by his own event team, though he would also enlist the help of admins for private servers to make sure there aren't infinite cannon sniping each event. And also for other necessities to run an event, like being able to kick hackers and stuff. For the events, he also says some private non-Northwind staff would be needed to run these. Throughout the interview, I noticed a lot of the things he planned were taken into his team's own hands, because while all the candidates are promising the moon and the stars, the mayor himself doesn't actually have that much power, so most of the power has to come from the players themselves. As for the post about the creation of a mayor-ish government, insert alarm bell here, he says he can't say too much about it, as Ravenravener would say,
I've been told by my party not to say too much. We do believe other candidates will try to take some of the ideas, some of the things we've listed.
When asked about any payment, he said he didn't know if his government would be paid or not, and if they were, it would come from the treasury. When asked how this treasury should get its money, he said it would come from mostly donations and his own bank account. So thankfully, it appears Northwind's Tea and Harbors update won't be out for a while. He also says he would make a newsletter where events would be posted along with other news. I also noticed he said he was going to create a raider alliance so that the raiders could get larger parties to rival the constant SLC over rally, but the obvious question was how would he do this? He said he would at least include contacting factions one by one. I then asked about the most intriguing thing, which was a portion on the mayoral candidacy post, where he said he would work with the community to make Northwind short films that would help unite Northwind. The obvious question is just how many Northwind people can participate in one film, because there can only be so many actors, and there's 35,000 people in the Northwind Discord server. Surely there won't be enough roles to be filled, right? When he responded, he emphasized that there were more roles than just actors, like producers, guards, costume designers, and 5 more. On top of that, he explains he was given a film Discord server where the previous owner simply left because he couldn't get enough actors. So obviously with the mayor's status, there would probably be enough to make the film, but not enough to have too many, to the point where there's not enough roles for them. When asked to give a remark on what he thought was most important, he said unlike the previous mayor, who as Ravenravener would say, not just coming in for a couple of days and doing mail work, and then for the rest of the month doing nothing. Instead, Ravenravener will actually do his job and do his best to make James Bay a, quote, friendly place for all. Now's a good time to explain to you that the admins recently changed the rules so that anybody who wins must have at least 25% of the vote. And if nobody does, then the sitting mayor remains, which seems pretty normal until you realize there are 7 people running, so on average each candidate will receive only 14.2%, requiring close to double the average vote percentage to win. Somebody's gotta win, and we can't let Zwash. Another important remark he makes is that there's been a lot of bribery going on, where mayors pay people to win their votes, but he would rather have people vote him because they think he's legitimately a good mayor, not because they're getting paid bribes.
Personally, I'd rather have willingly votes and someone they actually want to have in the mayor actually doing the job and responsibility.
I also asked him about where he stated in his post that he wanted a better state for Northwind, so I asked him what he meant by a better state, then emphasized that to achieve a better state, more players would be on Rupert. When asked to provide a closing statement, he said, "As a mayoral candidate, I promise to work tirelessly to address the pressing issues affecting our community, and I look forward to earning your trust and support as we work together to build a brighter future for our precious James Bay. Thank you." That was my official quote read in voice, by the way. It cost me a grand total of 0 anything, so you better subscribe at that price. Man, my bank account's almost gone now. As for my own overall thoughts, I'm not seeing any glaring issues or massive flaws in his plan, though I would be a little cautious about the government part. It seems he plans to fund that himself, if it is funded at all. Another bonus to his good policies is that he says he doesn't swear in his videos or VC, so unless we get some sort of further development, this is definitely going to be at least one of the best Northwind candidates out there for September 2024. The first question I had for ShaneBro was when his post said, "to the new generation or not." What did he mean by that? He responded with,
"I want to greet them both at the same time, yeah. The new generation a bit more though, because they're getting oppressed."
Because in ShaneBro's mayoral post, where he said, quote, "putting generational equality aside, since it will happen," and then went on to his other policies, I asked him if generational equality was going to happen regardless of who wins. In that case, why would you vote ShaneBro? His response was that he meant generational equality would happen if he was elected for James Bay Mayor. He also added that he believed people would catch on that he was running for generational equality since his last campaign. He didn't want to keep bombarding his people with the same old lines. When asked about his plan on, quote, "fixing brokenness," he said he had a number of traders, with the main being a one named Optech. He also added this would help older players with brokenness too. As he said, he would prioritize the needs of his people over himself.
When people suggest something, you don't immediately go for, how will this benefit me? Why am I going to do this? Prioritize what they want and not what I benefit off of.
When asked how he would be different than Zwash with regard to the events he would host, he responded,
"So I was in a VC with Zwash, and I quote, he said exactly this." Well, close enough.
"The event team is not enthusiastic. They sit around until someone tells them what to do. Every time I were to suggest something, they'd always point out the downsides and try to make unnecessary compromises with delays. They suck." He summarizes his own policies as host events, equality for the new generation, make sure there's colonist factions, maybe revive the James Bay militia if Zwash hands him the keys, as well as he says personally he wants to help get the event team into better shape.
The event team is very shy. They don't talk. I've never seen any event team person talk other than Roger Void. Yeah, I respect him.
He also specifically commends an event team member by the name of Roger Void for his conduct. In addition to that, he states he has never heard the event team leader speak either, so at least according to Wash, the problem was not the mayor, but rather the delayed event team. This obviously raises the question, what would ShaneBro do to ensure the mayor is able to do events in light of this new information? His response was, "if they're not ready, I'm gonna tell everyone." I then asked him about the, quote, "big changes that need to be made, and if there were others than just the events." He responded that while the big changes do include events, they also include things like managing toxicity, because as he would go on to say, imagine if you're a new player and you're treated toxically, you will then guide friends who were also interested in Northwind away, resulting in even more damage. To help solve this, he encourages people not to loot new players. He adds, it's so easy to lose players, and they don't even know about it. So it appears detoxifying the Northwind community is one of the biggest goals for his campaign. Now, with the new change, where any winning candidate must have at least 1/4 of the vote, if not, then Zwash receives a second term. Because of this, I asked him what plan he had to beat Zwash, and he says something quite interesting. He claims that Zwash himself is actually going to endorse ShaneBro. According to ShaneBro, he believes Zwash just didn't want to suffer through another term with the event team. When asked about the mayoral opponent, Bernardo claims that the events depicted in Bernardo's videos are only open to his own faction. He also claims that the mayoral opponent Bernardo, self-proclaimed Shrekman, used artificial intelligence to generate speech rather than writing one himself, which, if true, would mean that the large portion of language used would not be originally intended. Also, take note that Bernardo himself claims that he does not use AI, in direct contrast to what some of his own followers would say. Upon testing the AI detector ShaneBro used, with a handwritten generic speech about generic subjects, the AI concluded it was 0% AI generated. After taking the generic speech and asking an AI to paraphrase it, the AI detector then rated it 100% auto-generated. I then tried again, this time mimicking Bernardo's structure and style with various small changes in an attempt to trigger it with different topics and framing/punctuation, but again for each test received 0% AI generated. While this is by no means a conclusive test, it does significantly strengthen the case against Bernardo. Shane emphasizes in contrast, the posts he makes about himself are genuinely made by himself. He also claims that the Bernardo party, to quote him, is not funny. I kind of agree. The final thing he mentions about Bernardo is that
So, a new player joined VC with me and Bernardo in Voice 1 when I just suddenly saw him. And Bernardo was like, bro, you don't know how to play the game? Okay, so you might as well just join the SLC. They can support you. But at the same time, he doesn't realize the SLC has enough players. All they do is sit inside their fort all day. They wait for Candy Power 998 to come and raid him with his one masterwork and pocket pistol.
he adds, while he's not against SLC, he thinks there are too many players there already. And he also adds a number of people he knows in the SLC, such as Arcade and St. Tree, would probably agree that there aren't enough raiders. When asked about his opinion on the other Northwind candidates, he says Vivazil, while a cool guy, has made a mistake of a very long mayoral speech, which lacks the ability to speak to the majority of Northwind players, given their age and attention span, and also lacks the assertiveness necessary to lead effectively. When asked about the Artillerist party, they know how to be straightforward without using filler content. However, as a downside, their grammar isn't always the best. When asked about the Boswell party, he summarized that they were similar to Vivazil, but shorter and a quote, big gangster party. When asked his opinion on the Ace party, he calls them a bit irrelevant, and that all their candidate is known for is being a YouTuber, in contrast to himself, who, as he would say,
My influence is being a real one.
which he defines as being a strong social leader and having experience. However, keep in mind he has not been able to see the Ravener interview, which discloses new information that he may not have had regarding the party. When asked about his opinion on the Sigma party, he said that,
Okay, I'm aware of his duping past. I know the guy, he's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't really support his duping past.
when asked if there was anything else he wanted to comment on, he again emphasized the need to detoxify Northwind's community, for example, not looting broke players and helping them out. When asked to give a closing statement, he says, quote, he must mention, a leader is a servant who places his needs of his men and women, or in this case, new generational and old generational people above himself, and that can go for anything, and sometimes you even must exclude yourself. He also adds, quote, please get this message out and vote ShaneBro for James Bay Mayor.
And I thank all my people who are voting for me and knowing who the true GOAT is, the GOAT, the one with all the prowess. He's here. He's waiting. So please get this message out and vote for ShaneBro for James Bay Mayor. Thank you.
Now, as for my own commentary, I think with ShaneBro, a lot of his stuff is not very obvious, if included at all in his original mayor post, but this interview definitely shows a lot more of his policies that most people haven't seen, and I think the results of the vote would definitely look different if they all could see this. I do think ShaneBro and Ravener are definitely two of the best options for mayor, if not the two best options for mayor, I'd also like to mention that both candidates thanked Candy Power at the end, so you should follow their lead by hitting those like and subscribe buttons now. Also, as for the claim by Sigma Party candidate Offbite, yes, the same former duper who also funded a previous mayor candidate and is now a mayor candidate himself and is offering, quote, casino events. Yeah, that's right, these guys did not learn at all. Anyways, that guy makes the claim that I've been paid by ShaneBro. I must admit, I actually have been paid a very large and massive sum of £0 and 0 items to promote him. If you guys like this video, make sure that you actually go and vote for at least somebody. Remember, if you don't vote for the better candidates, then you're essentially voting for the candidates that you like the least. Make sure to do that. Alright, goodbye.